So when I first heard that they were doing a TV show about Agent Carter, I had no idea what this was going to be, and I thought it was a very stupid idea. I was very, very wrong. Hello once again, watchers of Good TV, including those of the MCU. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my college dorm room. Now today I'm going to be talking about Agent Carter's first season. This show just concluded last night on Tuesday, and so I'm going to talk about it. I will touch on the ending of the season towards the end of this video, so if you are caught up and you want to hear my thoughts on that, be sure to stick around for that fun insight. So Agent Carter, more than anything, is kind of a sequel, more or less, to Captain America the First Avenger, because it takes place a year after the events of that film, in terms of when Steve Rogers went down into the Arctic and got frozen there for 50-some years. Haley Atwell plays Agent Carter, Peggy Carter. She is an SSR agent who is very underappreciated, and if you remember from First Avenger, she was one of Captain America's kind of big comrades and had a big role in that film. And so it's after World War II, and she is kind of less important now because the world is ruled by men, obviously. She kind of has to do her own thing, and the plot of this season is that Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father, has created some things which have been stolen, and so Howard Stark is framed for those things and for the theft of those things, and so Peggy has to clear his name. That's more or less the plot of the show. Helping her is James D'Arcy, who plays Jarvis, and anyone who's seen Iron Man knows the name Jarvis. This duo is very, very good because they balance each other out very well. We have Jarvis, who's kind of the more serious and professional, while Peggy Carter is much more let's just go in there and get the job done type of pseudo persona. And they just work together really well as a team. These two actors really have great chemistry together, and if we get a second season, they better be teamed up again. And then we have three guys who kind of make up the main cast of the SSR. We have Chad Michael Murray, who plays Jack Thompson. We have Enver Jokaji, who plays Sousa. And we have Shea Wingham, who plays Dooley. These three guys, they start out very anti-Carter because this is just kind of how the world is during this time. Women are very underappreciated, and they kind of just use Carter to get lunch and take notes and be a secretary, basically, when she was capable of so much more than that. And so they have a very sexist view from the start of the show, and it kind of transforms by the end of the season, per se. More than anything, Peggy Carter comes out as a very strong woman during an era where women are very put into kind of a box, per se. She basically has to go out and do all this investigating into this group called Leviathan and Howard Stark's clearing of his name, all on her own, because she will not be listened to in any capacity by the SSR. That said, Leviathan itself, as kind of what seems to be a precursor to Hydra, doesn't really hold as much of a threat throughout the course of the season as I might have liked it to. It starts out with a very large presence in the first few episodes, and then it just kind of dwindles into the background as we get kind of some of the faces of Leviathan kind of erupting into the picture, but we never really get to see like the organization or really dive into what it does, per se, and so I would have kind of liked to see a bit more of that in the show. The show is also very funny and humorous, while also being quite dark at times. There's death in this show. There's a lot of death in the show, actually, but it always has a lot of the humor within the shows, with both the SSR agents and with Peggy and Jarvis's relationship and chemistry. It was kind of nice to see that balance play out throughout the course of the season. The story as it goes is very, very well done. I thought it worked really, really nicely for its compact 8-episode first season. The show moved at a very good pace for those 8 episodes. It never really felt rushed or slow to any degree, and so I really liked seeing that aspect of it. There's a lot of great action, there's a lot of cool fight scenes, a lot of use of special effects with guns and different toys that Howard Stark comes up with, and it all looks really, really good. There are some scenes of CGI which maybe could have been polished a little bit better, but I mean, that's just kind of here or there. That's just how CGI generally goes with TV shows. There's also lots of character development, mainly with the SSR agents, but also between Peggy and Jarvis. The SSR agents, though, there's an episode about halfway through the season where they go into Russia, mainly Peggy and Thompson go into Russia. And Thompson, who's been very kind of Auntie Carter doesn't see her worth, he opens up to her, and we get to see a little bit more of what makes him him, and we get to see this type of thing with a bunch of other SSR agents throughout the show as we get a little closer look into their lives, both their lives during the war and also in the present day, and so it kind of helps to fill in their characters and make them a little bit more relatable. The other general thing that I didn't really like about the season is that there's not a ton of MCU references, but at the same time, that does allow it to stand up on its own 2 feet and be its own show without having to steady itself on the shoulders of the massive giant, which is the MCU. It tells its own story. It does have obvious connections to both Captain America, Iron Man, all these kind of big things, S.H.I.E.L.D. But at the same time, if this was just kind of a show without anything backing it up besides maybe the first Avenger, this could work as just a show in and of itself, not with any connections to the MCU. But I still would have liked to see it maybe play into the current plotline of S.H.I.E.L.D. to some degree with the Inhumans and everything. Just kind of seeing some of that stuff might have helped the show kind of have more of a connectivity to S.H.I.E.L.D. as it's coming back next week. Maybe that could have played out a little bit nicer. But as a season, before I talk on the finale, as a season I really did enjoy Agent Carter. I thought it was very well done. It was dark, it was gritty, but it was also very comedic at times. All these actors worked together really, really well. I really had no big issues with the show besides the 2 that I mentioned, and they're just kind of general things. If you haven't watched Agent Carter for some reason, I think the whole first season is on Hulu Plus. I'm not terribly certain. But you can also buy it on other platforms like iTunes and Amazon. But yeah, definitely check it out. It was very, very good, and I really hope that it gets renewed for a second season. So now I'm going to briefly touch on the season finale of Agent Carter, because I feel like I should do that. And so if you have not finished up season 1 of Agent Carter, stop watching now, because there will be spoilers for you. So I'm going to touch on my one gripe with this episode, rather than touch on the good stuff right away. The one gripe that I had with this episode is that there wasn't really any sense of peril or danger with Howard Stark ever, because this is 20 to 30 years before the birth of Tony Stark, and we know that Tony has some memory of his father. So I don't know, it's very tough to build up tension in that regard when there's not really any sense of threat, when you know that this character has to survive for the sense of continuity with this whole universe. That point put aside, this episode did work really, really well as a finale. I did like that it kind of did what Sleepy Hollow did, kind of bouncing off of that last review I did, in that it kind of bookended itself. It kind of set itself up to continue if it gets renewed, but it also sets itself as just a 1-season series if it needs to be, because it has its own built-in story. It contributes to the MCU, but doesn't really hold a strong enough presence to be like extremely bad if it doesn't get renewed for a second season. I thought the way it ended was very, very good in that we got to see kind of a confrontation between Dottie and Peggy. We saw Faust get captured and taken in, and everything just kind of worked out nicely. I did like the plane flying sequence with Howard Stark at the very end. Kind of was a callback to First Avengers ending, and so I did enjoy seeing that aspect of it. So overall, this episode did work really well. I like seeing Peggy get recognition by the SSR finally at the end of this episode, as well as kind of a nice touch as kind of a full circle thing, which has finally happened with her. And so if season 2 happens, I think she'll hold a very much more dominant presence in this whole SSR universe, and I'm sure she'll have a huge part in the founding of S.H.I.E.L.D. whenever that ends up happening in this show's universe. Then obviously the last little scene was a nice little callback to the Winter Soldier program. I did enjoy seeing that. I don't know if we would see the actor who showed up, who I don't remember the name of, in season 2 at all. It just kind of seems like kind of a nice Easter egg for fans to show kind of how the Winter Soldier thing kind of happened with the whole hypnosis thing and whatnot. Those are my thoughts on the finale. I did enjoy it as a whole. I liked the season as a whole. The whole thing worked. I really want to see a second season, and I would definitely watch it if it gets it. So those are my thoughts. Leave yours in the comments down below. Did you like the season as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Once again, if you so choose, I appreciate it immensely. And as always, great people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.